Hey, everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Was weird to not be on live at 6 and
Yeah, I know. I startled myself about 5 till and went, oh, what? Oh, no, never mind. We're 7 on Wednesday. We're 7 on
I know the dogs didn't mind, but
Yeah, mine didn't either. But hey, everybody, welcome. Nice to see you all, whether you're here live or after the fact. We appreciate you all very much. And yes, we did hit a big milestone today, which was
did.
7,000 subscribers,
Yes.
which is really exciting. Our goal during this trial is to get to 10,000. So,
Yeah.
Anytime you want to share us out to your friends, we'd sure love that because we just want to get
Yeah.
bigger. We appreciate it so much.
And a lot of you have done that, and we appreciate you very,
Yes,
very
and
much.
we do appreciate you so much for that.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been able to be, watching the trial, that's why we do these at night, and also to just kind of break down some of the things that happened and talk about some of the questions we have and
Mhm.
some of the what the hells and thank you all very much for the congrats. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
excited.
You guys are
I'm
the
going to
best.
start out with what the hell with Pryor and Chad being in the dark all day.
Yes. Actually, before we do that, can we talk about the watch party?
Oh, yes, we can. My apologies.
No, you're good. I just I don't want to forget. So it is the
Yeah.
watch party tonight. So normally that's not that big of a deal because we're not, watching 8 hours of court every day, but
Yeah.
we're not going to stray away from our regular things. So it is the watch party tonight. So that happens at 8:15 Mountain. If you are a part of our membership on YouTube, then you probably already have received a notification, but this is how it works. We're going to watch, we always watch on Netflix because most people have Netflix. I know not everyone does, but we're watching Unlocked, a jail experiment. This is the first episode. This is really interesting stuff they're doing. And frankly, I don't think we talk about incarceration around here probably enough. We've talked about the death penalty a lot. But anyway, so it's Unlocked, a jail experiment, episode 1. So you just go to the live stream and open it up, and our chat will be going. So we'll be live, but this is what you'll see. You won't see us. You'll just see this meme right here, or meme background post. And so you'll
Background.
watch on your own device, but we'll all chat together. That's how we do these. And it's a ton of fun. So I hope you guys, if you are a member, you can do that. If you're not, you can go over to YouTube and do that if you want to. It's super cheap. And it's just one more way to interact with us during the month. And this is a fun one. So it's not Daybell-esque. We were going to do Mike Tyson this month since he just passed.
O.J.
Not Mike
Simpson.
Tyson. Good Lord. Mike Tyson has not passed. He's getting ready to fight. Never mind on that. O.J. Simpson. Where am I? But the documentary on him is so long that we will do it another day. But this day, I just think it's too long for you and me. So we're doing something else.
Yeah. We'll do that when we're not also watching court every day. And, everybody needs to be able to get some sleep around here.
Mm-hmm. But yes, carry on with the Chad going 50 Shades of Dark.
Yeah. So this was super weird. Yeah, this is what we saw all day. And, and we're pretty sure it's because they had all the blinds up. The jurors asked to have the blinds up so that you could see outside. And it was a beautiful blue sky, clouds kind of, white puffy clouds kind of day. Some people said it looked like the clouds from The Simpsons. It was just a beautiful day in Boise.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is that then, yes, Chad and Pryor were just backlit as silhouettes the entire day. And you can see in this image that, this is 4 different views of Zoom, over Zoom in the courtroom, and everything else looks normal. And then there's Chad and Pryor in outer darkness
Mhm.
at 9.9999 dark
Yes.
in purgatory. We don't know. It's
Understand.
weird. Like it's a strange
Mm.
commentary that isn't meant to be a commentary, but it
Yeah,
still
but it's
is a
so
commentary.
funny. And I did borrow this, graphic from the docket on Twitter. If you don't follow the docket and you're on Twitter, you should.
Oh
They're
yeah,
amazing.
they are. But that was weird watching the whole thing in there. Plus, also
Mhm.
a good share of the day, we couldn't hear anything that Pryor said unless he was standing at the podium
Mhm.
because he was not didn't have his mic on, wasn't talking
Mhm.
into his mic. And I guess
Yeah.
the judge couldn't tell or didn't care. But
Gave up.
there would just be dead silence, and then the judge would say, "What's your reasoning?" And you'd realize
Right.
he had made an
An
objection, but
objection.
you couldn't hear it at
No.
all.
First thing this morning, he got called out for not using his mic, and then for the rest of the day, I think the judge just went, "Fuck it. I
Yeah,
what do you do with this
tired of
person?"
this.
Yeah.
Right, so it was odd. It was odd. All
Mhm.
this whole day was odd, I think.
Wasn't it? Everything just felt
Yeah.
off.
Uh-huh, it was a little different. So,
Mhm.
we started out the day with Detective Chuck Consitis.
Mhm.
He is a Rexburg, detective,
Mhm.
Rexburg City detective.
Mhm.
He's been with the Rexburg Police Force for forever.
Mhm.
And his job,
Like, since we
on
were
this
teenagers.
yeah, like since
Yeah.
we were teenagers, which is a long time because I'm old. Um, and you're slightly less old. Uh, so Consitus's job was to go through all of the financials
Mhm.
of the various players. So Lori, Alex, Chad, Tylee, and JJ. He went all
Mhm.
through their financials, which is very dry information, but it's also really important information
Mhm.
because it lays out a timeline. And like Consitus said, looking at the financials in a missing persons case tells you a lot
Mhm.
because you can tell immediately when someone is no longer living,
Yeah.
when all of their use of their finances
Mhm.
stops. So let's see. We're not going to go through it all, like all the accounts and all the stuff they talked about. We're going to hit some highlights. So Consitus talked about cell phone bills, bank statements, and letters from the IRS that all were in a post office box in Sugar City, Idaho,
Mhm.
which is a little town just outside of Rexburg. And Lori owned a P.O. box there.
Which is really
And
interesting because Chad has to have had a PO box there too. I'm guessing
right,
that's why she went there because people on
probably
that road do not receive mail. It's a
right on
really,
Chad's
really
Road.
busy road, and on the Salem Highway where Chad lived, there is no mail service. You have to go into Sugar City to the post office to the PO box. So I'm guessing that's
Yeah,
why Lori had one too there.
I assume so. Because yeah, I mean, it was weird to have one in Sugar when he could have had one. She could have had one in Rexburg
Yeah,
if she was going to have a PO box. There were about 100 pieces of mail
yeah.
there that were addressed to Lori, Charles Vallow, and Alex Cox.
Hmm.
So we found a lot of things there that actually helped to identify their banks, their cell
Hmm.
phones, a bunch of stuff like that because the bills were locked up in that PO box.
Hmm.
So he went through tons and tons. I mean, at one point, Nate actually described the paperwork that um, that Wood brought forward as an exhibit as an entire ream of paper, if you can
Yeah.
imagine. All through all of these different bank accounts, showing the history of their deposits and transfers and debits. And it showed a lot of things like Tylee's regular activity on her own bank account, that's where her death benefits were going from her dad, Joe Ryan.
Yeah.
And she was spending money about every day, you
Mm,
know. She was paying for her Jeep and her phone bill, and she was buying gas and food and various things up until September 1st. And at that point, Lori changed the bank account where Tylee's money went
mhm.
from Tylee's account to her own account.
Yeah.
And this happened, just just over a week prior to when we know that Tylee was killed. So she went from having control of her money and having access to her money to not having any money.
Yeah.
He said her last in-person uh like transaction was at McDonald's in St. George, Utah on September 1st.
Yeah.
So that was likely when they were driving
Mhm.
from Arizona to Rexburg.
Yeah.
Tylee lived a very short amount of time in Rexburg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Her ending balance in her account was $0.
Mhm.
Lori took even her last $10
Mhm.
and transferred it to her own account.
Mhm.
It's just so gross, and it's so
Yeah.
sad. You see how active Tylee is and how she's growing up and she's, managing her own money and figuring all this stuff out. To She just is erased.
Yeah. Yep.
It was
And
really sad.
because she was ripped away from her friends and the
Yeah.
rest of her family, she'd been working for Summer's husband.
Yeah.
And, she was ripped away from all of them, put in a town where she knew absolutely nobody, and was promptly murdered
Yeah.
where nobody would miss her.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad.
It really is. It's sad, and it's a great example of why we are here doing what we are doing,
Yeah.
because there needs to be some justice for this.
Mhm.
So Concitus, continues through this giant stack of paperwork. One thing that he noted is that after the deposit change happened, right before Tylee died,
Mhm.
um, $7,465 of Tylee's benefits went into Lori's account. So
Mhm.
that's what she was receiving after his
Mhm.
death.
Yeah.
Um, then there was the Social Security benefits that JJ was receiving from
Yeah.
Charles's death. And that money was always going into Lori's account. And the total amount of that after JJ's last proof of life was $7,835.
Mhm.
So they're showing, basically the profit off from the death of the children.
Yeah.
Really important to get it down to those numbers, because we know how money motivated Lori was in this
Absolutely.
situation. So it was important to see this. Um, uh, a One of the things that was happening though after Tylee's death is that there was money being transferred into her account and then being immediately Venmoed out or transferred back out. So
Yeah.
Lori was still creating transactions
Mhm.
in this account, but they're very different than Tylee's activity. Detective Consider said it was very easy to tell
Mhm.
that this wasn't Tylee. For
Mhm.
one, Tylee did very little shopping online. Almost all of her purchases were in person.
Mhm.
And after her death, money would be transferred into her account and then mostly was used online
Mhm.
or Venmoed out.
Yeah.
And it was just basically the opposite of the way that Tylee used her account.
Yeah.
So there was these two purchases at Costa. Let me say it 1,000
Correctly?
times more for old John Pryor, not
Mhm.
Coda Vida, Costa Vida, which is kind of like it's a little bit like a Chipotle. It's a burrito like place that we
Mhm.
have around here. and there were charges for Costa Vida in Rexburg on September 17th.
Mhm.
And then there was one for in Ammon, Idaho, which is which is a suburb of Idaho Falls where I live,
Mhm.
on October 7th.
Yeah.
And Consitus made it clear that he believed that those charges were both done by Lori.
Mhm.
That someone was using the card to make it look like Tylee was using the card.
Yeah.
And apparently, whoever those people were, they really like Costa Vida. And I mean, Costa Vida has
Mhm.
good food. We like Costa Vida too.
I'm not gonna let them ruin Costa Vida for me. I'm not.
Well, don't worry about it because it's apparently they were going to some place called Coda Vida, if you were John Pryor.
Or Costa Vida, he said a couple of
Costa
times.
Vida. Yeah, he kept
Yeah.
saying it wrong. Both.
Mhm.
And I think he does it on purpose.
Mhm.
I think the mispronunciation of things is on purpose. And I think it's really stupid. I just don't
Mhm.
get why. So some of the times that money was Venmoed out from Tylee's account at this time was
Yeah.
Venmoed to Colby.
Mhm.
Now we know that Tylee used to send Colby money here and there.
Mhm.
Colby was young, married, has a special needs child, sometimes needed some help. And Tylee had a pretty good chunk of money coming in.
Mhm.
And so she would send him money here and there.
Mhm.
So we know that Lori was using Tylee's phone
Mhm.
to text Colby occasionally and
Mhm.
then also to send him a little money here and there. I remember one was for his birthday
Yeah.
to, again, make it look like Tylee was still alive.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Carrie says, I'm surprised he didn't say Costa Rica. Right?
I would
I
have
don't
been
know.
kicked out of the
Is
courtroom.
Pryor dyslexic? I don't think so. To my knowledge, he is not. But it's like he has this real daughtery grandpa, I can't do technology shtick
Mhm.
that he puts forth in these hearings, and somehow he oh yeah, there's another use of yeah, PWAP prior with asinine pronunciation, because it is, he does it all the time. And it's weird to me. And yeah, Colby has a child with cerebral palsy, doesn't he?
I believe that's
His
yeah.
little girl has cerebral palsy.
Mhm.
So, right. Colleen says, but Lori didn't need to eat. Right. Who was eating the Costa Vida? Probably
Not that
Alex.
translated goddess. What?
Right. Yeah. Right. And Paula, there's a question that's a good point that he's showing his prejudice
Mhm.
by deliberately mispronouncing the name of the restaurant because it's Mexican food, which could be, I don't know.
Mhm.
But he's done it with other words too, and it just and the way that he refuses to differentiate between text messages, instant messages, and emails, and he calls them all emails
Mhm.
until Wood and the judge were have been just flat pissed off at him. So
Mhm.
he was doing some of that. He wasn't really objecting much during this stuff, and
Mhm.
it appears to me that he is thinking that this is all just for the good for him because this is all still basically stuff about Lori and Alex.
Mhm.
But the thing that I think that he just maybe just is not getting is that there are indications in these financials of the preparation for the children's deaths. Like
Yeah.
she was making changes to their finances in
Mhm.
preparation for them not being around anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so she's doing that. And then the kids disappear.
Yeah.
He marries her. And then the kids turn up in his backyard. So I don't care if
All
his
the while telling people that Lori doesn't have kids
doesn't
or
have
that
kids.
her daughter, she had a daughter who died or, a while
Yeah.
ago or, things like that. Buying
Hmm.
into all of it and telling the lies along with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this is having the impact of proving Chad's innocence that he thinks that it is.
I know, I
Because
don't
it's so
either.
gross. I mean, seeing this, you can see not only was were these murders premeditated, but they, especially at least for Tylee, went to a lot of work to make it appear as though Tylee was still living when she
Yeah,
wasn't. Then
absolutely.
we went
Well, and one of the things that
mm,
they showed this morning was Lori buying a plane ticket for Chad.
more than one, yeah.
Yeah. The the one thing that got me this morning was when he said to Concitus, well, I guess it was this afternoon, but when he said to Concitus that, well, why did you put, he was asking about some travel of Chad's, and he was saying, did this have anything to do with Charles Vallow's murder? And he said, no. Well, why would it be on this timeline then? And he said, well, well, was it for work? Was he traveling? What was this for? And he said, well, we don't know. Well, was this just did this actually need to be here, or did you just put this here to get a reaction out of the jury?
Yeah.
Gross.
Which got an immediate objection
Objection that was
for being
sustained.
argumentative and,
Yeah.
but he was just being shitty. But the airfare stuff is really interesting. Man, these people did a lot of flying, for one.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of flying. Oh,
Well,
but one of
it's
the other
cheap
things
to fly from Idaho Falls to Mesa.
right, it
Really
is.
cheap,
There's a
like less than
there's a very cheap
$100.
flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was very interesting, we talked yesterday about Chad calling Valley of the Sun Mortuary to
Mhm.
get a quote. Well, there's also then on the same day that Chad made that phone call, there is a credit card charge of Lori's to Valley of the Sun Mortuary. So,
Mhm.
some validation there of old
Mhm.
Chad Daybell and his Uncle John Myron Daybell, you know.
From Iowa or something. Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a lot of flying back and forth between Idaho Falls and the Mesa Phoenix airport.
Mhm.
Lori purchasing plane tickets
Mhm.
for Chad from Idaho Falls to Phoenix in March of 2019.
Mhm.
Um, at another time, and this was before the murders. This was during, when they were just having an affair and hadn't killed anybody yet. She also flew him to Houston for a
Mhm.
weekend when she was there bringing JJ or to visiting JJ or something to do with when Charles was living there,
Yeah.
and she flew Chad. These are Lori's credit cards, but you know who was paying those bills? That was Charles.
Yeah.
Flew him to Houston to see her for a weekend.
Mhm.
Another time she flew between Mesa and Provo, Utah, which I'm going to assume is because Chad met her there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evidence in here of their affair.
Yeah.
Um, the apartment application for the Pioneer Road apartment.
Mhm.
Lori had written on the application that her daughter had graduated at 16
Mhm.
and was too young to live alone, but was coming to attend school at BYU, Idaho. So she was coming to live here so she could go to school.
Mhm.
There's the start of that lie.
Yep. Well, in Lori's trial, they did bring I think a provost from BYU,
Mhm.
Idaho, up on the stand who said,
Yeah,
we have absolutely no record of Tylee. She never applied to go to school here. She was certainly not a student here. We have no record of this person whatsoever. That was just a
right.
part of the lie. There was absolutely no truth to it at all.
Yeah. Then he looked through Alex's financials, and he talked about how Alex had a job where he got 2 to 3 paychecks a month,
Mhm.
that he was, paying all of his bills and credit cards and stuff,
Mhm.
right up until um, he got a loan for $21,000 on August 8th. And
Mhm.
shortly after that, he quit his job.
Yeah.
And then he never had any income again.
Yep.
And listed on the reason for the loan was medical reasons. But we
Mhm.
know that was not true. But he
Yeah.
basically quit his job, got that loan, and moved to Rexburg with her and never had a job again.
Yeah.
A big change in his behavior and in his
Mhm.
financial behavior.
Yeah. Huge.
He stopped paying all of his bills.
Yeah. He didn't need
which
to.
was pretty interesting. Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was
he didn't think he needed to.
nigh on to the second coming and being a translated being, guys. You don't pay your
Right.
bills. That's mundane. That's for lowly people.
Right. Right. Yeah. So between August 10th and October 24th, Alex made 46 transactions for gun related purchases.
Yeah.
He bought a bunch of guns, he bought a bunch of ammunition,
Mhm.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's pretty that was a pretty hot debate because um we've all everyone's wondered for a while, or there were questions for a long time about how was Alex able to buy a gun because of his conviction of assaulting Joe Ryan.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that was a withheld judgment, and so he was allowed to still own guns.
Mhm.
Um, there we had to have a little um, motion to eliminate hearing outside of the jury at one point because John Pryor, who has been told he is not allowed to bring up Joe Ryan's death anymore or Joe Ryan's anything about Joe Ryan or the attack on Joe Ryan from Alex, he wanted to know how he could possibly question Detective Consitus about all those guns
Mhm.
if he couldn't ask him about, if Alex could or couldn't own a gun.
He was very concerned about that, which
Yeah.
honestly, like, obviously he could. He wasn't buying guns at gun shows or someplace that you might be able to get around that. He was going to
No.
Cabela's and other gun shops in Idaho Falls. He was
Yeah.
buying guns from gun shops. Of course, he had
Hmm.
to be legal, or they would not have been able to sell to him. But
Yeah.
that was a weird point that he was. It was a real judge. I'm trying to make sure I follow the rules. Only
And then he
such a moot
immediately didn't
point.
follow the rules. When
Yep.
he started his cross-examination of Consitus, he
Mhm.
immediately jumped right into the gun thing and, asked if um, Alex, if there was any reason why Alex couldn't own guns.
Yeah.
And Consitus said, well, there was a charge, but he was allowed to own guns. And
Mhm.
then Pryor tried to jump right into it, even though the judge told him he couldn't, and Wood objected and stopped him.
Mhm.
But right in that situation, another situation occurred. And Carrie, you can definitely help us with this. But as he walked up to the podium I think, to start his cross examination of Consitus, he said something like, well, if I'd known that, I would have been prepared, and called Rob Wood a smartass,
Uh-huh.
is what we've heard. And Carrie, you were there, you witnessed it. It's not being reported by East Idaho News. It's definitely being minimized.
Mhm. So
So,
Lauren from Hidden and Carrie are both saying that is exactly what they heard. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that immediately caused a sidebar in which they all went out in the hall
Yeah.
and there was some yelling in the hall.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And, Pryor was in some deep shit.
well, well, he was mad because Wood, rather than say at the end of lunch or before they went to lunch that he didn't have any questions left for this witness, he waited until they got back, had that motion in limine, and then when it was his turn, he went right up to the podium and said that the state has no more questions at this time.
Yeah. And
So
he
it
was
kind of
mad at
screwed
him
Pryor
over it.
because he would have had all of lunchtime to be prepared for this witness. He still did, really, but it was kind of a. I thought it was. I was shocked and kind of surprised. I'm sure Pryor was too, but
Yeah.
you can't be calling the
So,
prosecutor a smartass
mhm, yeah.
and getting away with it.
So
That was
that
stricken.
was, yeah, that was definitely stricken. And well, it wasn't though. It was all played off. The judge said that they uh went out and had that sidebar
Mhm.
because there was a concern that someone was recording inside the courtroom.
Mhm.
Now, no one actually that we know of saw anyone get accused or anything happen. It was almost like that was the cover story for the actual situation, which was the thing with
Right, because that happened
Pryor
in front
calling
of
Wood
the
a
jury.
smartass. So it was very
Yeah.
weird. Right. And yeah, boys, they came back and said that there was a concern that someone may have been recording, but that turned out to be there was nothing, they couldn't find anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, a concern but not confirmed. So they sort of just glossed over that whole situation by saying that, which
Mhm.
was kind of odd. But I think they were trying to make sure that the jury didn't, I mean, that would be a big deal for
Mhm.
the jury to have heard that,
Yes. Yeah.
you know?
Honestly, Pryor, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. But, the prosecution said yesterday in their, order, in their application that they ended up doing that hearing on yesterday, that they
Mhm.
were worried that, Pryor was trying to cause a mistrial.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's some pretty good animosity going on here. It has been for
Yeah.
4 years, but,
Oh, yeah.
we
I
can see
mean,
it.
how
Yeah.
many times has the defense, well, Pryor and Mark Means in the past tried to
Mhm.
get Rob Wood thrown off this case. So there's some bad blood there.
Which is so crazy because Lindsay Blake is killing it. She's
Yeah,
got plenty of good help, and at the time she had Rachel Smith, who was an absolute
right,
wonder. So, all the while we're like, I don't wanna see Rob Wood off of this case, but if it happened, it sure wouldn't end the case. It wouldn't be the end of the
right.
world in any way.
It's just, does it
Yeah.
give the jury some doubt in the prosecution, you know?
Mm, yep.
So anyway, that all happened, which was pretty wild.
Totally. Carrie said she also parked next to Pryor and gave him a good wave when she went in, but he ignored her. And then later in the
Good
day, he
job.
stared her down a couple of times to catch her eye. Oh, I've had that eye. It is creepy AF.
It is
Yep.
creepy. Yes, he did that
Mhm.
with us many times in Fremont
Mhm.
County, and it's very odd.
Uh-huh. That's true, Amber. There were a few hearings in Fremont where in between and stuff that Rob is or Pryor's always trying to buddy up to everybody and get them to
Oh
visit
yeah.
with him. And there were some times we saw Wood and Pryor visiting and laughing together. That's true. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but he just tried to get him thrown off the case again, and I would imagine Wood is pissed off at him. Sick of this mess, you know?
Mhm. Consitus. Detective Consitus
Oh,
is
yeah.
a gigantic teddy bear. He's an enormous man. There's
Oh,
2
yeah, he's
men
huge.
on the 2 detectives on the RPD that can think of that are both really, really big humans, Consitus and Hope.
Mhm.
And Consitus is like 8 freaking feet tall. He's huge.
Yeah.
And to see Ray Hermosillo stand next to him is funny because Ray's a little guy. Anyway,
Mhm.
but this case has broken his heart. Every time he talked about JJ today, there were tears. It just ripped my heart
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, he teared up a lot talking about, the connection between, like, the timeline between various financial things, and then how near this was to the death of either of these children.
Yeah.
He really brought it into a more
Yeah.
personal sense of,
Yeah.
it was very clear that these children were never no longer living on this planet
Mhm.
because of the financial records, which was important. It's important to understand how they know when
Mm.
the kids died, you know? And there are a lot of different ways they know, but definitely, this was a very important one.
Mhm.
So then, oh, the cross-examination with, Pryor and Consitus was a lot of it just extremely pointless, but mostly just
Mhm.
pointing out, um, that this wasn't Chad's fault. But the biggest one being, the, he went real hard on the, Costa Vida visit, one of them,
Yeah.
and about how he knew who was there, and he wanted to know why they hadn't done, GPS and all this stuff, and Consitus is like, "That's not my part of this investigation.
Right.
That's
Over and
somebody
over.
else's job. I'm not in charge of GPS. I'm in charge of the financial stuff, and he got real nasty and sideways with Concitus for a little bit.
Kept at, well, why
Um,
haven't you done this? Well, why haven't you done that? And he's like, that's just not my role. I
right.
wanted more objections there than we got, to be honest.
I know, I did too, but I still wonder if they're just kind of letting Pryor go off a little bit
Hmm.
because he was really rude to Concitus, and here's this guy who's cried on the stand over the deaths of these kids, and then he's
Hmm.
nasty to him, and
Yeah.
and going at him about things that he obviously knows.
Yeah.
This is not an investigation that was all done by one freaking person. It wasn't even done by one jurisdiction of police.
Hmm.
Um, so that was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
And then we got this guy cracked me up, honestly. The way he talked, he was so official.
Hmm.
FBI forensic accountant Michael Douglas. And you
The
might
Michael Douglas of the
yes,
FBI.
of the
Yes.
FBI. Yes. The way he said it all was very interesting.
Yeah.
So he also he's a forensic accountant, and he helped with all of this financial stuff.
Hmm.
The first thing he said that blew me away and blew us all away is that he built a spreadsheet of all of the bank accounts that he audited through this process, and it was 80 bank accounts, you guys.
80. How many accounts do
That's
you
not
have? Two or
that's
three,
not like
probably?
sketchy at all, right? 80 bank
Yeah.
accounts. Insane. Insane. And you can't tell me there wasn't moving money around and doing various things to be confusing when you had
Right.
80 bank accounts.
Or just being sketch in general. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really weird, but he was very knowledgeable about the case. He did a lot of
Hmm.
the other electronic investigation stuff too. And so he just kind of took everything that Concitus said and put it in a very precise timeline
Yep.
for each individual person about
Hmm.
when all of these things occurred, including the death dates of each individual person, which was really, I thought it was really powerful. I
I
hope
did
it was
too.
powerful for the jury because it just took all of the information that Concitus gave and then narrowed it down to all of the key points of this is
Yep.
when this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened.
Hmm.
Yes, he had he had these timelines. There was a fraud timeline. There were different timelines for various crimes
Hmm.
that he was investigating, which was really interesting. Yeah, and he had labeled them all. It was really good.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it helped a lot just to see why there are so many different ways in which all of this connects back and connects to why they know what happened to the kids.
Hmm.
One interesting thing was that he could prove that money was sent to Colby from Tylee's Venmo on October 10th from Kansas City, Missouri. And they could then, go back and prove that Lori was in Kansas City because they could prove the flight. However, Tylee was not in Kansas City because there was no flight. Just things like that I felt like were super helpful. There was, yes, the grand theft timeline, and that was the timeline about all of the Social Security payments. So he had a table of the Social Security payments, a grand total of, and this included the payments to Lori for Charles's death, of $22,545 went into Lori's account after the deaths of the children. And so she was committing grand theft from the Social Security Administration for Charles and then also JJ and Tylee. He talks about when Tammy's life insurance was increased, which was only a few weeks before she was killed.
Yeah.
Chad was doing a lot of ignoring during this process. He was
Yeah.
scrolling on a computer,
Hmm.
just not really paying attention.
Hmm. Yeah.
They started to talk about Chad and Tammy's financial history just
Hmm.
very briefly. And then that was when court ended today. So
Yeah.
that's where they're going to start.
Hmm.
But a few things of note that I think some of these things we knew, some of them I think I don't remember them necessarily. But so it was September 8th that Tammy's life insurance was increased.
Mhm.
He had documentation of prepaid cell phones um that were done by Chad beginning in 29 yeah, beginning in October of 2019.
Mhm. We
Um,
also learned, and I don't know if I missed this in Lori's trial or we didn't hear it, but the Lori had a $2 million life insurance policy on
yes.
herself in
Mhm.
Colby's name.
Yes. And he and Douglas, had found that to be of concern
Mhm.
or of note because it was only in Colby's name and
Yeah.
not in Colby, Tylee, and JJ's names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember if you remember AVOW, the website that Chad was writing for, the Christopher
Mhm.
Parrott website where a lot of the preparing of people were at, and this was a paid to um participate kind of website, and Chad worked for them.
Well, it has
He
a paid
wrote
side and a not paid side, but all of
right, yeah.
Chad's stuff was behind a paywall. Yeah.
Mhm. And on November 1st, he received his final check from that website and resigned.
Mhm.
Um, they also talked about the trip to Knott's Berry Farm where Chad bought tickets to go there for himself, 5 kids and in-laws, and a ticket for Lori.
Mhm.
But let's see. So what Chad did right before he got arrested. This is important. Um, Chad transferred $1,000 to 3 of his kids.
Mhm.
Um, when this started with when the kids were missing. He sent
Mhm.
$1,000 to 3 of his kids on the day that they announced the kids were missing. Isn't that odd?
Mhm.
Why would he immediately start sending his kids money when that comes out?
And only 3 of them.
Yeah. So then on January 3rd of
Well, of
2020,
course,
so
the youngest was still on his mission at that point, to be fair, but
that's right. Yeah. There were 2 money transfers on January 3rd of 2020 to his middle son of $1,500.
Mhm.
Then on March 6th, when Lori was extradited from Hawaii to Idaho, when he came back to Idaho, Chad sold his 2 vehicles to his 2 daughters
Mhm.
for $200 for each.
Mhm.
And then on June 9th, 2020, when the bodies were discovered, Chad had transferred $8,000 to his children.
Mhm.
So he transferred $10,000 from the Spring Creek book account to his personal account on June 9th.
Mhm.
And then he moved $8,000 to Seth's account,
Mhm.
and he sent $8,000 to Joseph and Emma.
Uh-huh.
And then he also transferred $8,000 to Garth from a savings account.
Mhm.
And so
Not
those
to mention
transfers were
that
made at 8:50 in the
$9,000.
morning.
Yeah, not to mention that there was $9,000 in cash in the house,
Right,
in
right.
Mark's bedroom. Yeah.
There was so much information that indicated to me,
Mhm.
and I think to a lot of us, that he was preparing for this. He
Mhm.
knew it was going to happen. He knew exactly that he needed to get his money spread out to his kids before he was arrested on
Yeah.
that day, because like he and Emma agreed, he wasn't going to be coming back.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty wild stuff. It's I think it's a good indicator that the jury needs to hear over and over and over again
Right.
that he was preparing knowing he
Mhm.
was headed away
Yeah. Wasn't returning.
forever, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
think
he
that's
took money from his kids for his cars. He sold each car for $200.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's kinda bizarre
Yeah,
because he
it
could
is,
have
and
just he can just
they
go to the
gave more than
DMV and do a title
$200.
transfer, you know?
Right.
You don't
Yeah.
have to sell things for there doesn't have to be a sale price when you're transferring from parent to child.
Mm-mm.
So he
No.
didn't have to do that. I don't know why he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things one of the weird, objections today from prior, when I think it was actually Concitus, I'm not sure. One of the witnesses today was asked to, describe, like, what Chad you know, what, Spring Creek Publishing was.
Mhm.
And he said, well, it's a publishing company that Chad writes and publishes books through.
Mhm.
That seems like a reasonable answer, right?
Yeah.
Prior objection. That misrepresents. And Wood is like, how? Is is that what a publishing house does? And the judge was like, yeah, no, you can do that on cross. We're not doing this. I was like,
So then he asked
what?
him so that because he wanted him to say not only did he write books, but he also did public speaking and he did podcasts. He wanted
Oh,
that was very important that he get that
mhm.
out there.
I was
Yeah.
just only disappointed that Rob didn't call them Chad's dumb books. Come on, Rob.
Come on, Rob.
Archibald did it. You
But
can do it too.
but isn't it odd that he gave money to 3 of his children on the day that, the police announced that Tylee and JJ were missing?
Right. What was that money
What
about? What
was
was it
that
for?
$1,000 for to 3 of his children,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird.
Misrepresents that Chad has a job.
Yeah. Pretty
Or
much, yeah. Yeah, all of the
oh
financial
gosh.
stuff that he did was strange. It definitely
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Right, GSI. Well, I mean, did he love Lori, or was this just about money and power and sex? I don't know, or did he always want Tammy out of the way? I think that, he was a philanderer and a shitty husband, but when he got the chance to have Goddess Lori, that just changed everything. I don't know that he always wanted Tammy out of the way, but it Chad's like the chess captain getting the head cheerleader. Like this is the story that you see play out between the two of
He
them.
wasn't the
It's
captain, but
yeah, probably
okay.
not. He was a kid on the chess team who got the head cheerleader. You can see it in him in the
Mhm,
way he wrote about Lori and the way he talked about Lori. In his
mhm,
mind, like he got the hot chick
mhm,
in the situation. And I think that Chad is an extremely insecure person. And I also think that Chad has always really
mhm,
craved recognition and needed a lot of outside validation from other people.
mhm,
And Lori gave that to him in a way that, took him from just a jackass to a monster.
mhm. But remember too, Tammy's death was prophesized by Chad. He started prophesizing that in late 2018, beginning of 2019.
Right. That's true.
And that whole year, he had told many people that he had these visions that Tammy was going to die. And
Hmm.
then Tammy died, and it made his prophecy true.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can discount the ego in him that he liked seeing his prophecies come true as well. I really, really want to see Christopher Parrott on the stand. God, I hope they call Christopher Parrott. And
I
I
hope so too.
really, really, really hope that they made it into the back room of that AVOW site to get all of Chad's writings
Yeah.
because he had released a writing when just a few days after Tammy died. And it's the train station essay that he wrote. And
Hmm.
one of these days we'll go through it. It's thick as hell, but um, they emailed half of it out to all the AVOW people, trying to get them to come and subscribe to Chad, on their site so that you could read the other half of it. Nellie's at my door. She's out there with that wand toy. Can you believe that?
Oh
Anyway,
no, you still haven't thrown it away.
an idiot. Anyway, uh, but so they sent out half of it. So I have scoured the internet for the other half of this letter and I cannot find it. Everybody has the first half, nobody has the second. We'll bring you that
Mhm.
letter here in a day or two on a day that court's dry and there's not a lot to talk about, like today.
Yeah,
We'll bring
yeah.
that letter. But Christopher Parrott is a man that lives in Rigby. Hold on.
Yeah, Christopher Parrott owns the website,
Hmm.
The LDS AVOW, which is another voice of warning. They're a hate group. They attacked us the first time we had Pride here in Idaho Falls. Um, I was on the committee for that, and AVOW really went after us, and we were scared that they were going to show up and cause problems at Pride. They didn't actually, but they were threatening some things. And they did a lot of other stuff where, yeah, they had a free site and a Facebook group where you could get some of their information, but it's a lot of white supremacy, hate for other religions, hate of the LGBT community. there's the stupid one, Katie. Stuff like that. It was a very they're a very scary group. And Christopher Parrott owns that website, owns that group. And Chad was Katie's dying laughing with her mic muted, I think. Anyway, Chad was writing for that group, and Christopher Parrott was a very vocal supporter of Chad right up until he was arrested for the children's murders. And then he came out all contrite and made a big apology, like a public apology on the news, that he was so sorry, that he had no idea that his friend Chad would be involved in something like this, and he had defended him because he fully believed in him. And they're all a part of that same Preparing a People group, the prepper Mormons in this area that were getting ready for the second coming and building the tent cities and like trying to follow Chad. And he was a very public supporter of Chad right up until he was arrested.
Hi, guys.
How you doing? Did you take care of that problem?
I kicked them back out. They came in and they were so loud and wild, and then Nelly tore my headset off. I don't know if you guys saw that, but anyway, so I kicked him back out. So we'll see. But I now have the toy of doom in here, so I've got to take it out to the garbage can. That's all. But yeah, Christopher Parrott, guys. If Christopher Parrott's on the stand and he reads some of that shit from AVOW, it's gonna blow your minds. Yep.
Yeah, it's wild. Yes, and that's true, Joelle. Christopher Parrott's daughter and son-in-law did do an interview on Mormon Stories, the Mormon Stories podcast. Go do a Google search for that and watch it. Very interesting. But this is, if you go look up LDS AVOW and learn about what they are, you will learn a lot about the level of hate that there was in this group for anyone who is not white, straight. And LDS.
Yep.
Yeah. Really scary stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a real jerk right up until the kids were found.
Oh yeah, he was on East Idaho News on Facebook's Facebook posts, just fighting it out with people right and left, and just telling everybody what jerks they were and what losers they were and how dare they. And yeah, he was really something. He wasn't the only one. So was Emma's husband, Joseph. Joseph Murray, I think. He was belligerent to people online, clear up until the day where the kids were found. And then, boy, everybody just shut the hell up.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Are there any normal people living in the area that Lori and Chad live? Yes, there are. I mean, it's not everybody here by any means. They are a very small minority, but they're here. And they're just a little further underground now because of this situation.
That question, really. I loved it. Yeah, they hate anyone south of Yukon. Right, because they wanted their tent city to be in Yukon.
Which is another little
suburb.
Just north of Idaho Falls, where I live.
Yeah.
It's a tiny little town that's mostly just a farming community. Right, Julie Rowe was the same. She was totally Team Chad right up until the kids were found.
Yes, yeah. And then immediately she's like, I told everyone that Chad's terrible. Oh.
Yeah, no, she didn't. She was kissing his ass right up to the arrest.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we had from today. It was a very different day in court, and we're going to see some of those days where we get some really explosive stuff, and then we get some very dry but very important parts of this timeline that they're constantly trying to get the jury to understand the order in which all of these things occurred and how they are connected to one another.
Yeah. You're right, Dawn. It is a belligerent turd circus. We've kind of forgotten that phrase, and it's a good one.
We've been calling it that for years. Yeah.
Yeah. That is straight up what it
Is
is.
that the same Joe as who called 911 for Tammy's over the driveway incident? Yes,
Yeah.
it is. He and Emma lived across the street at the time that happened.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, we've been calling it a belligerent turd circus from day one. It was a lot
Mhm.
more of that when Mark Means was still on this case. Man, you just never knew what was going to happen. But then John Pryor really kind of has taken over in his place at this point.
He has, but man, Mark, oh, we miss you, Mark.
Right. And I think that you're right that Julie Rowe thought that she'd be the one with Chad till Lori showed up.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's been a
But
lot of
again,
indication of that.
why? Why did any of you ladies
What is
want
the
this
draw?
dude?
We watch him sit there in court every day. Has anybody got the hots for him yet? I don't think so.
No. Yeah, thank you, Carrie. We appreciate it a lot. And definitely any
Yes,
of
we
you
really
guys, if you go
appreciate
to
it.
court, we really appreciate your insight.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't know, Eternity, because he is not saying shit on Twitter. I've been stalking
He
him a little
has a
bit and he
gag
hasn't
order.
said a
He's
word.
not allowed to speak about this case. He was told that when he was kicked off from it.
Well, he still
And
has, though, clear up until like, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And then he has not said a
mhm.
single thing. Yeah.
But during the trial, I don't think he'll dare. But we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true. Tammy was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's like, I agree with you, TJ. It's gross that we all kind of do this. Well, we had this beautiful Lori. Well, Tammy was beautiful. And Tammy was
Right.
a great mom. And
But
Tammy
Tammy
carried
didn't
Chad's
worship him
dumbass
because
for
she knew
years.
who he
Yeah.
really was. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tammy was old news. She wasn't exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she just didn't buy his hype the way that Lori did. You know,
Hmm.
she was going, I'm not so sure that you're the prophet. You know, I just don't think
Yeah.
she bought in the same way he did
Hmm.
or that she did. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up because we're going to be back at 8:15 Mountain
Yes.
for the watch party. Katie, do you want to remind us what the
Yep. So we're watching Unlocked on Netflix. It's called, there's more than one Unlocked. So you need to have the whole name, which is Unlocked, a Jail Experiment. And we are watching episode 1. So as long as
okay.
you are a member of our YouTube membership, you should already have seen a notification for that, but that'll start live streaming at 8:15. We usually wait a couple of minutes to get everybody in the room, and then we'll
Hmm.
do a little
Have everybody
everybody get
synchronize their
ready.
remotes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And push ready go. And then we'll
And then
just
we'll watch it
chat it up.
together and chat. Yep. All righty. Well, we appreciate you all so very much. Thank you for joining us live, joining us after the fact
Hmm.
on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, wherever you are. We appreciate you all so very
Hmm.
much. And you know what? We are the True Crime Squad.
Take care.